Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Zara and today I am going to be walking through the books that I read in the month of March and the books that I'm planning to read in the month of April. The month of March was actually a pretty good month. I read across a bunch of different genres and I also started a new manga in March. I'm curious if anybody has guessed which one it is. It's a manga that I've been wanting to get to for quite some time and I finally started it. So I think with that in mind, let's actually run through the books that I read in the month of March. So the first book that I read was James by Percival Everett. This is a retelling of Huckleberry Finn from the perspective of James, who is a slave. And it is one of those books that I really did not know what to expect going into, mainly because I think a lot of retellings generally don't do justice to the original source material. But I have to say, I think Percival Everett did an absolutely excellent job reimagining this story from the perspective of a character who is often overlooked. I will be doing a dedicated review on this book, so do watch this space for that review when it comes out in the next couple of weeks. But overall, I gave this book a 5 stars. It was absolutely fantastic. It kept me on the edge of my seat and I enjoyed every single second of it, despite the heaviness of the topics involved. The next book that I read was The Lies of Locke Lamora by Scott Lynch. I have already done a full review on this, so I will keep this one very brief. This was a book that was pretty anticipated for me. It's a very beloved fantasy series by BookTube, by the book community in general. And unfortunately, this one was a miss for me. It was very average. I think the writing was pretty good and the world building was excellent, but everything aside from that was not great for me. So it was a very middling experience. I gave it a 2.5 stars. It wasn't bad, but it also wasn't good. The next book is a book that I can't actually talk about because it's not out yet and the author has asked me to not say anything about it yet. But I will just say that it was a 5 stars. It was one of the most unique original stories I've ever read. I will be doing a review of it when the embargo lifts, which will be in about 2 weeks, and I cannot wait to share more. The next one that I read was a DNF, and that was The Ash King by Chelsea Abdullah. This is the second book after The Stardust Thief, and I just didn't care. I did not care. The first book, I think, was like a 3.75, 4 stars for me, which in hindsight, it's probably a little bit too high. Like, it was a very average book. I enjoyed elements of it. It reminded me very heavily of S.H. Chakraborty's The David Bye trilogy. So I was hoping the next installation would follow the same trajectory of the David Bye trilogy, because the book 1 I was pretty lukewarm on, and then book 2 and book 3 are like flawless pieces of literature in my opinion, and so I was kind of hoping the same would happen here. But unfortunately, I got into the book, I was up to about 20%, and I just did not care about what was happening. I did not care about the characters, and so I decided to DNF the book. I very rarely do this, but I think I've definitely realized that I just have so many other books that I want to read that I just cannot continue to read books that I'm just not enjoying. And I think unfortunately this was just a case that I just didn't care. Then I started Vagabond by Takahiko Inoue, and this is the manga that follows Musashi Miyamoto, and it is based on the book by Eiji Yoshikawa. If you've watched my channel previously, you might have seen my review of Musashi by Eiji Yoshikawa. I did it, I think it was about 2 years ago now. It is one of my favorite books of all time. It is honestly just a masterpiece in writing as well. It is quite a long book. It's over like 1,200 pages. And yet it doesn't feel like it. It's so philosophical, it's so beautifully written, and it's got a lot of historical and political context in it as well, which I don't typically read a ton of, though I am going to start reading more of historical fiction now. But it's a book that lives rent-free in my head and I think about it all the time. So I've been wanting to get to Vagabond by quite some time, and I just thought, you know what, let's pick it up. And I absolutely loved it. I will just say that I have read volumes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 at this point. So I read 7 volumes throughout the month of March, and that will hopefully continue into the month of April. Absolutely loved it. It's amazing. If you are interested in Japanese history, if you're interested in the person of Miyamoto Musashi because he was a real person, if you're interested in that particular period of time, which was the Sengoku period, then I strongly recommend picking up. Also, the art is absolutely stunning. It's beautiful. Then I picked up a Russian classic, and that was The Master and Margarita by Mikhail Bulgakov. And this book was just something else. I'm not normally a fan of magical realism. I think it's just, I often find it quite difficult to read. And I didn't realize The Master and Margarita had magical realism in it. But it's such a wonderful book. It's such a wonderful book. This to me is like, it's like a fantasy book. It reads like fantasy. And yet there's a lot of commentary on the social and political environment of the time. And it was just absolutely phenomenal. The writing is so beautiful. I can't get over how amazing that book is. Like, when people told me they thought I would enjoy it, I didn't think I was going to enjoy it to the extent that I did. And I gave it a 5 stars because I think it might be one of my new favourite books. Like, it's just incredible. And I will be doing a dedicated review on this because there's so much to talk about. So watch this space for that. Then I picked up Mists of Memory by Ensign Scrimshire. This is the second book after Sea of Souls, which is a book that I talked about 2 years ago. I think it is, when it first came out. This is a self-published series and it is just very, very well written. I think a lot of the concern that people have for indie books is that often the writing quality is not as good as traditionally published works, but I can tell you right now that that issue does not exist with N.C. Scrimshire. Her writing is so good and these books are so well written. I gave it a 4 stars, mainly just because it did meander a little bit in places, but overall it continues to shape up the series in a really interesting way, and I cannot wait to see how it ends whenever Scrimshire writes the final book. Then I read 2 more books. I finally started a French author that I've been dying to read, and that is The Outsider by Albert Camus. This is a book that I've had on my list for probably over a decade, an author that I've known about for probably 15 years at this point. It's just somebody that I've been quite anxious to read because I had a feeling that I was going to really love his writing. And I don't know about you guys, but whenever I think I'm going to love an author, I actually sometimes delay reading them because there's this anxiety of whether they'll actually become that, if that makes sense. This is why I waited so long to read Dostoevsky, and I can't believe I waited so long. But I thought finally I would try out some Camus, and The Outsider is absolutely fantastic. It's a very short story, like I read it in like a day, I think, but it's deeply profound in many ways. There is definitely some minor issues with it that I had, but I'll go into that in my review when I publish that in the next couple of weeks. I gave this one like a 4.5 stars. I don't think it quite hit the 5-star mark, but I'm definitely going to be reading more Camus this year. Then the final book that I read in the month of March was a sci-fi book, and that was Babel 17 by Samuel Delany. I can't believe I waited so long to read this book. So I don't know if I've talked about this before, but I'm very interested in language. It was actually part of what I discussed in my degree, specifically as it relates to artificial intelligence. And so it's a topic that is quite personal to my heart. And I read a lot of books about it, non-fiction books about it. And I came across this completely randomly. Like, obviously I've heard of Samuel Delany. He's a pretty well-known, pretty prolific science fiction writer, or he was, I should say. But this one I picked up because it was discounted in one of my local bookstores, and I was quite curious about the sound of the plot, and I pretty much devoured it in a day because while Delany has quite a technical writing style, I just really enjoyed the way that he approached language and how language can influence our perspectives, our surroundings, how we approach conversations, our lives. Like, it's just very layered. And I've not heard anybody talk about this book, and I'm now thinking, why? It's so good. It's not the easiest book to read, I will say. Delany's writing style, as I said, is quite technical and it's quite difficult at times, but I didn't mind it. And in fact, I really enjoyed it, and I gave this book a 5 stars for that exact reason. I will be doing a dedicated review on this one as well because I think it deserves some time to talk about the themes. So watch this space for that. So that's everything that I read in the month of March. I read quite a bit. I'm quite happy with all the books and manga that I read last month. So yeah, let's move on to what I'm planning to read in the month of April. This is not fixed by any means, but let's jump in. And this is in no particular order as well. One of the books that I'm definitely going to be reading in the month of April is Too Like the Lightning by Ada Palmer. This is the first book in the Terra Ignota series. And this is an author that I've been really wanting to read for a while now. She is very close friends with Jo Walton, who is an author that I've talked about and raved about quite a lot on my channel now. The plot of this series sounds absolutely fascinating and like the exact kind of thing that I will love. So I cannot wait to read this. I'm going to be buddy reading this with Matt, one of my patrons as well, and we're both super psyched. Can't wait. Then I'm going to likely pick up Lancelot by Giles Christian. As I kind of mentioned earlier, I do want to read more historical fiction, and I love the mythology surrounding Arthur and Merlin. I think it's as a result of being a Brit, maybe. I don't know. I love literature, but also movies and TV programs around Arthurian legends. And so I really want to pick this series up because I've heard like pretty good things about how Christian approaches it. Then I want to pick up a fantasy series, and I'm not sure which one to pick up, to be honest. I think I might either start Life Ship Traders by Robin Hobb, but I'm most likely going to start that in May, but I'm going to keep it as a potential option. I might also read The Traitor Barry Cormorant by Seth Dickerson, which is the first book in the Masquerade trilogy, I think it is. Quite interested in this one because I've heard it's super, super political, so that is also a potential option. Another one is The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. This one I'm a little bit nervous about just because it's written in second person and I'm not sure how I'm going to gel with that, but that is also a potential option. So I do definitely want to start a fantasy series. It's just a bit up in the air about which one I will start. Then I'm going to pick up Butter by Asako Yuzuki. This is a book that was gifted to me by my brother, and so I'm definitely going to pick that up because I've been curious about this book for quite a while and I've heard really, really good things about it. Then we have our buddy read pick of the month and The Majority Rules, and we ended up picking up The Dream Hotel by Laila Lalami. Laila Lalami is an author that I've mentioned quite a bit on my channel, and she's an author that I've been wanting to read for quite some time now. She also has a historical fiction book that I really want to read this year, which is called The Moor's Account, but we will start with The Dream Hotel and I'm super, super excited for this one. Then we have a couple of other options. There's Alamut by Vladimir Bartol. This, I believe, influenced Assassin's Creed, and if you've watched my channel for quite a while now, you'll know that's one of my favorite video games in the world. The original trilogy is just absolutely flawless, and I still consider it to be one of the best games ever made, or the best like trilogy ever made. It is just absolutely phenomenal and a masterclass in storytelling. So I'm really curious to read Alamut because I think it's one that I'm going to really like, and it's also historical fiction. And then the last one that I currently have is one that I've mentioned in quite a few of my previous months and I still haven't got to it, and that is Prisoners of Love by Jean Genet. I'm almost certain I will get to that this month because it's just constantly in the back of my mind and I need to read it. So that's it. Those are the books that I've read in the month of March and the books that I'm planning to read in the month of April. Let me know down below in the comments what you have read in the month of March, particularly if there were any hits or misses. Let me know what you're planning to read in the month of April, and I will see you down below in the comments. Thanks for watching, folks. Stay safe as always, take care, and I will see you very, very soon. Bye.